One day, you worked overtime until late at night in a small space, looked at the endless data in the computer, and cursed the boss. After drinking a cup of coffee, you were still a little sleepy, so you just leaned on the chair and took a nap. Suddenly, a golden light flashed, you opened your eyes, and your whole body froze. In front of you was a lush green grassland. Looking around, you were on a vast plain. You hit yourself twice. It hurts. Not dreaming. Yes, you have come to a strange place. You're freaking out. It's happening so suddenly. You're not even prepared. After a short period of confusion, you feel that you should do something. Look around, and there are scattered houses not far away, which look like small villages. You have been interested in history since childhood, especially the Dark Ages. From the appearance of the houses in the distance, it can be judged that this should be a medieval country. Soon, a lot of medieval material flashes through your mind. First of all, you don't know the language of the medieval, so your language will be regarded as crazy, and what's more terrible is that you will be regarded as a heretic, and the end is to be burned alive. So you decide to pretend to be dumb. As long as you don't speak, you can avoid many risks. Then you take a look at your clothes. Such clothes could not have appeared in the medieval. The crowd will be amazed at how you clothes. If there are malicious rumors that you are a wizard, then your end is to be burned. So you strip down to nothing but a pair of panties. Then there is the question of identity. You rolled a few times on the grass and got dirty all over. Plus you are mute, so there is a high probability that you will be considered a refugee or an unlucky person who was robbed by bandits. With such a set, you become an unkempt and naked beggar. You came to the village under the scorching sun, and you really caught the attention of the villagers. You found out that they spoke Old English, and you knew that this was England in the medieval. But you don't understand Old English, you can only get a rough idea of what they said. You scream with your mouth open, dance with your hands, and act out the scene of being robbed. The villagers are touched and feel sorry for you. After a series of body language, you become a tenant farmer and get a small thatched hut at the head of the village. You have officially started your sharecropper career. You go to the wheat fields with the villagers every day to thresh wheat, and most of the fields are rye and oats. The dirty, muddy ground is full of livestock manure, which is smelly and noisy with mosquitoes and flies. At noon, you ate hard black bread, the kind of black bread that is said to be used as a weapon. You took a bite, a mouthful of stones and sawdust. Meals can be tolerated, but water is not allowed to drink indiscriminately. The water in the medieval was too dirty, with all kinds of pollutants. So various plagues were rampant in the medieval, and people died one by one. Since you can't drink water, you can only drink. Fortunately, there is a lot of malt wine brewed in the village, so don't worry about not being able to drink it. After a busy day, you return to the village. The villagers have no entertainment at night, and they are exhausted after a day. Farmers sleep with their wives in their arms, and you can only look at the night sky alone. Staying up late and working overtime for a long time in the past disrupted your biological clock. In the dark night, you shed a line of tears. These days are too bitter. Your happiest day is going to church every Sunday. That small church is the most beautiful building in the village. Whenever you listen to the pastor's honest teachings in the solemn church, you can get a moment of peace of mind. After more than a month, you finally figured out the situation. The village you live in has about 30 families and a population of more than 150. Your lord is the Baron of Dover, an old baron in his 50s. His barony is huge, which is larger than the sum of the two baronies next door. The old baron's name was William, and the villagers called him Lord William. Then, you got another important message: your king is none other than the famous John the Landless. Now that you can finally calculate the exact date, King John has been on the throne for 16 years, so the year is 1215. Damn it! Isn't this the year Magna Carta was signed? You're amazed you've come to such a meaningful year. Could it be that God has given you a special mission? You're so excited you want to go to King John, tell him never to sign the Magna Carta. Tell him how to deal with the intimidation of the barons. However, the reality is very cruel. Wouldn't it be a fantasy for you, a low-status pariah, to actually want to see the king? As always, you work from sunrise to sunset, mingling among rough country folk. Although you can already understand most of Old English, you're an idiot, you can't break your pretense, you still can't speak, and women don't want to talk to you. Days like these drive you crazy, you want to go out but don't know where. And you're a sharecropper and you can't go anywhere without the baron's permission. One day, you and two rough fellow villagers went to the Lord's castle to pay taxes. This is the first time you entered the castle. The Lord's castle is very majestic. Previously you could only admire these medieval castles from your computer screen, but now you are inside the castle. The environment still brings you quite a shock. A knight in chain mail walks past you, so proud that he doesn't even look at you. You are deeply aware of your humble status, and the idea of wanting to see the king has become more and more ridiculous. Knights are professional soldiers in the medieval, and they are also the lowest nobles. Children of ordinary noble families, boys will be sent to other noble families as servants when they are 7 years old. At the age of 14, he will become a servant and receive various trainings, such as swimming, spear throwing, fencing, riding, hunting, chess, poetry and other skills. When you reach the age of 21, you will be eligible to become a knight and serve your lord, of course. To become a knight, you need the canonization ceremony of the Lord, and the canonization ceremony is quite expensive. So even if a servant without money reaches the age of 21, he cannot become a knight because he cannot pay the ceremony fee. They can only stay as servants until they have collected enough money. Therefore, if you want to become a knight, you need to be cultivated from an early age. It is almost impossible for an adult farmer to become a knight in the medieval. You heard people in the castle talking that the old baron was sick, had a doctor, and bloodletting treatment in progress. Yes, you heard it right, it is the bloodletting therapy of the medieval. Just put a tube of blood if you are sick or not. The illness is not cured, continue to let it go. The next day, the village was very lively, and news of the old baron's death was everywhere. Died from poor treatment. The young baron inherited his father's title. This is a restless person, and there will definitely be many troubles in the future. Sure enough, the young Baron William II took an active part in the nationwide Magna Carta movement not long after he took office, and together with other barons, forced the king to sign the Magna Carta. After returning, William II was very happy. He exempted some taxes in the territory and held celebrations. All the villages in the baron's territory also responded and held parties. Everyone sang and danced around the bonfire and drank happily. This is your happiest time in the village. And a village woman even gave you a shy look. It is a pity that the good days were short. King John was so worried about the Magna Carta that he joined Pope Innocent III to attack the Magna Carta and abolished it. Finally, the war came, and William II joined the ranks of anti-kings logically, and the recruitment began. As a modern person, you are a head taller than the average villager. You quickly enlisted in the army and took a break from the harsh sharecropper life. You happily ran to the armory in the castle, gesturing to ask the quartermaster for a set of armor and weapons. He raised his hand and slapped you directly. What? If you want armor? What qualifications do you untouchables have to own armor? Get out now. You went back to the village touching your hot cheeks and didn't give you weapons and armor. How can this battle be fought? You suddenly remembered that most of the conscripts in the medieval prepared their own weapons and armor. You stretched out your hands and calculated. £1 is equal to 20 shillings equal to 240 pence. A farmer earns about £2 a year. A set of ordinary full-body chain mail costs £7. A helmet costs £2, a shield also costs £2, and an ordinary war horse costs £10. Only weapons are cheap, and the cheapest iron sword only costs 10 pence. Even if you don't ride a horse, the price of armor is an astronomical figure for you. You simply put on a few more clothes as armor, bought a cheap iron sword, and went to the castle to report. There were farmers with pitchforks by your side. You were very disdainful, and he were reluctant to buy an iron sword for 10 pence. Dare to join the army? Baron William II attached great importance to this civil war, and he almost came out in full force, bringing 20 knights and their attendants, followed by more than 100 other conscripts. And more than 20 people stayed in the castle to guard the house. More than 100 people came to the assembly point of the army in a mighty manner. After waiting here for another half a month, other barons came one after another. You're mute, you can't talk, you can only play dumb in the team. The barons assembled their forces and marched eastward. Soon you came to a castle. You looked very familiar. You seem to have seen it somewhere. Take a closer look. Isn't this Rochester Castle, that famous castle in English history? You read this history when you was a child. You often saw this castle on the computer. You were overjoyed, and you were lucky enough to witness the true appearance of Rochester Castle. In medieval wars, low-status conscripts who wanted to make a small fortune could only rely on plundering spoils. Originally, you planned to fight a few battles with the large army to get some spoils and sell them for money, but after you entered Rochester Castle, you realized that you were the one being beaten. The king's army quickly moved into the outskirts of Rochester Castle. The siege of Rochester begins. The stones thrown into the castle killed several conscripts, and you saw a militiaman next to you with a pitchfork who was mangled by the large stones and lay dead on the spot. It's the first time you've come face to face with death up close. and you feel sick to your stomach and throw up all your overnight meals. The proud knights laughed at you. You are so tall, and you are less courageous than a mouse. You dare not refute because of your low status. The barons defended the castle and did not take the initiative to attack again. The king's siege became more and more violent, and groups of people died every day. You are lucky to survive. The siege in the past few days has consumed a lot, and there are not many defenders in the castle. You think you can't go on like this, so you have to think of a way. Suddenly, you think of Greek fire, a liquid incendiary that burns on or in water, a medieval killer that few people could make. With the knowledge reserves of modern people and a little knowledge of chemistry, this kind of gunpowder can be prepared. You feel that the opportunity has come. So you rushed into the Lord's Hall during dinner and displayed it in front of the barons who were eating. In addition to your excellent acting skills, you played hard to convince the barons that you could make Greek fire. In normal times, the barons would kick you out and beat you up. But at the moment when the war is imminent, the barons' IQ plummeted, and they actually believed you a pariah and ordered you to create Greek fire as soon as possible to turn the tide of the war. After receiving the task, you came to the basement non-stop, preparing to develop a big killer that can turn the tide of the battle, Greek fire. However, you overlooked one point. Your chemistry is not very good. While the chemistry isn't hard, you'll never be able to make a perfect Greek fire. After a dozen failures, you give up. What to do? What to do? If you let the barons know that you didn't make Greek fire, you'd end up strapped to the only catapult in the castle and shot out like a meatball. You panicked and shot yourself in the foot. What do you do now?